Hey, were you affected by the recent Power Homeschool fiasco? Oh, you might not even know about this online curriculum provider, and why would it affect you? Well, I'm going to break it down and talk about the problem, what happened that created problems for thousands of kids, and how you can protect yourself from being a victim of one of these growing numbers of these businesses that are preying on homeschoolers. So, Power Homeschool, it's an online course platform. It's kind of an all-in-one curriculum provider for kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, and it's become really popular amongst a lot of homeschooling families because of the ease of use. It's, easy sort of plug and play program with a low monthly fee, and it gives you, all the prep work. It's all taken care of. So, it's worked really well for a lot of families. And just to be clear, my family has personally, we've never used the program. We've checked it out. We like to look at different options, but my kids weren't into it. We follow more of a kind of an eclectic approach, so it just wasn't for them. But all families have different needs. Kids are different preferences and needs. And that's the beauty of homeschooling, that we can choose different programs that best meet our needs. And a lot of people really loved Power Homeschool. My opinion of it, aside, the recent hullabaloo here is that it wasn't particularly rigorous. It was more of a kind of a check the box kind of program, or it is. And the video seemed a little bit cheesy. But you know what? Some kids love cheesy, so it worked for them. Now, if you do some basic Google research, you're going to find some criticisms besides mine of the program and some allegations of racist or insensitive content, some weird stories about Roger Billings, the founder, and a lot of other things that somebody needs to write a book about, I guess, but it's not going to be me. So why am I talking about it then? Well, like I said, a lot of people really love Power Homeschool. And the company just made a move that really hurt a lot of kids. And that's what gets me riled up. At the time that I'm recording this, this is a new YouTube channel. My name is Patricia, and I'm a homeschooling mom to two twin teens. And I decided to set up this channel a little while back to really help out new homeschooling parents, primarily, especially those ethnic minority families like mine. I'm a Spanish-speaking Latina. And I think about Latino families, Black, Asian, not English language, first language speakers. So when I started homeschooling my kids, they were in kindergarten, and I happened to live in this really ethnically diverse neighborhood. And we had a wonderful group, a full rainbow of colors, and that was really fortunate. But not everyone is that lucky. I myself moved to a less diverse area, and I think about those people who aren't seeing representations of homeschoolers like themselves, not, what we think of as a traditional homeschooler. So I thought it would be really good to just help people have some more representation, see the many colors and languages of homeschooling. And that's not to exclude the rest of y'all, but it's just some of us have some very specific needs. So what's that got to do with Power Homeschool? Well, there's a growing population of us folks who want to homeschool our kids, but maybe we don't feel like we have an adequate education, or we're working, or for whatever reasons. We find platforms like Power Homeschool to be kind of that perfect tool to overcome those obstacles. Maybe that's you. So what do? We go online. We go to Google, Facebook, YouTube to look for recommendations. Give me that perfect recipe for homeschooling, please. I need that silver bullet. So in come the recommendations. You see lots of them online, boxed curriculums, a lot of books and reading and writing, and it can seem overwhelming at times. So these online options seem to look like a better solution. For these options, like cheap or free ones come in, Khan Academy, easy peasy. Then you get these expensive options like Calvert. And then here comes Power School. It seems like the just right solution. It's affordable. The video lessons, maybe a little bit of writing, but it's all in one, and it can really take a lot of work off of the parents' plate. So their numbers have grown, and parents, it helps them feel comfortable that at least when it comes to the curriculum, we've got it under control. And here comes the plot twist. Enter Roger Billings, founder of Power Homeschool. And last Friday, without any notice, he decided in the program that many people were using called the tutoring mode. Apparently, you can use teaching mode, which doesn't allow kids to skip around. They go from this lesson to this lesson, take the test, and move on, and you're not able to go back. So if you switch it to tutoring mode, you can go back and forth. And for some kids and their families, they feel that's a better option for them because maybe they want to repeat that lesson to get a better understanding of it so they can do better and not just say, okay, I got 70% and then move on to the next one. They just want to make sure they've got those materials down, teaching to mastery, which is a lot of us homeschoolers are striving to teach our kids to mastery, not just to pass the test. So this was a nice option for those families and those kids. And then I think about kids like mine. My daughter's dyslexic, and she's someone who would have been able to take advantage of repeating those lessons over and over until she really understood, because once might not have been enough for her. But what happened is they just decided that was no longer going to be an option, and they didn't inform the families, and they just canceled that option, which is frustrating. But the kicker, and what's really got a lot of people upset, is that those kids who had been doing their lessons in tutoring mode were reset back to when they originally were doing the lessons in teacher mode. So what that means is, it's April here, our school year is almost done. And if you have a ninth grader who started doing their lessons in teaching mode in September and then switched in October to tutoring mode, as of last Friday, all of their lessons got set back to that October date when they switched over. So all the work that they've done to this date has just been lost. It evaporated overnight. So all of that work got wiped out, and those kids had to go back to the beginning. And what 14-year-old is going to say, I've got to do all my algebra or pre-algebra lessons again? Very unlikely, very frustrating. And the worst part is it's about control. Like, why would someone else decide that my kid needs to redo all this work? So why would they do something like this? Well, it turns out that Power Homeschool is part of another company called Acellus. And Acellus is a curriculum provider. It's actually exactly the same thing as Power Homeschool, but it's usually provided to school districts. And so the schools buy Acellus, and they also have what's called Acellus Academy. So we have this online curriculum, and it's marketed in 3 different ways: directly to homeschoolers through Power Homeschool, through Acellus to schools. You can actually, as a homeschooler, I believe, buy it also, or you can enroll your child in Acellus Academy, which is their K through 12 school based, I think, in Kansas or Kansas City, Missouri. And you pay a much higher fee, and you're not independently homeschooling at that point. You're enrolling your child into their online academy. They're using the same curriculum, and maybe they have some other supports in place. Again, I'm not too familiar with that program, but I know that it's all under the same umbrella. Well, when people were really upset about why is this program all of a sudden changed overnight and all my kids' work is gone, people were upset and expressing it online, different groups in the Power Homeschool group, or the official group. And so a lot of those folks were muted or deleted, kicked out of the group. And the founder, Roger Billings, came back instead of, saying, oops, we screwed up, came back fighting. And he posted a very long statement that basically said that their concern was that kids were cheating by using Power Homeschool and transferring credits over to the Acellus program, I imagine their academy, which doesn't really make sense because parents using Power Homeschool are generally homeschooling independently. They don't want their kids to be in the academy. They want to control their kids' education. And, if you want to cheat, so you're saying they're going to buy 2 separate programs. It's kind of far-fetched, but what it was apparent was that Roger Billings, the owner of Power Homeschool, doesn't understand homeschool. He doesn't understand that parents are buying his program so that the kids will have an educational curriculum to follow and learn from. They're not worried about credits. They're worried about some education, and that's two separate issues, the credits versus what you're actually learning. And, you don't go on the defensive that way and basically call your customers cheaters, because that's what he did. And it's in black and white in writing. Roger Billings calling homeschoolers cheaters. And so, not all, I don't know, but it wasn't very well thought out response, I would say. So obviously a lot of people are really upset, and fighting back and rants, and there's threats of lawsuits, etc. And they had at least some common sense enough. Somebody in that outfit at Power Homeschool was able to say, hey, let's back off. And they issued a statement under Roger Billings' name, as somewhat apologizing, not really, it was one of those apologies that I'm sorry you're offended, which doesn't mean much. So they did then roll back on some of that policy and say, okay, we are going to reinstate the tutoring mode so those kids can get in there and get their materials. And you have to go through this process now to request to have that reinstated so that you can access the materials that your kid did. All of his learning records, work, whatever, tests, work samples, work that they've done, and it's been in their system all this time, and it just disappeared overnight with no warning. Now, I'm in a state that is a little more loosey-goosey when it comes to homeschooling oversight, and we don't have a large volume of checklists or documentation that we need to provide to prove that our students are being educated. But some states are very rigid, and you might live in one of those in which you have to provide a portfolio that shows some sort of evidence of what your child was learning. It's not enough for you to, I dedicated my life right now to educating my kids. Now I have to show the evidence of what they were actually doing. They're not just sitting in a park somewhere abandoned. So for those people, having enrolled in a program like Power Homeschool, part of the appeal was not only the lessons, but it was the record keeping. So they could log in and download and print off the portfolio when they have to go meet with whoever they need to from their state and their educational oversight review, who knows, and show the evidence of the work that their kids did. And that just evaporated. So this is obviously infuriating. It's really tragic for those families who found themselves in this situation. And if that's you, I'm really sorry. But, I've seen a lot of criticism of those families online. People saying, well, they should have this and they should have that. And, it's easy to say when it's you looking over there and, you're the perfect homeschooler and you keep your perfect portfolio at all times. But most of us are kind of real, and things get complicated, and you're paying money and signing up for a service that says this is what we're doing for you, so that you don't have to print out every little piece of paper and every assignment and keep your binders and your beautiful Pinterest perfect homeschool room. It's supposed to be online. And that's the service that people signed up for, and that's what they're paying for. And they trusted that if a company is called Power Homeschool, that they actually support homeschoolers. But what all this hullabaloo has exposed is that they really don't. They don't understand homeschoolers. And their idea is that they are controlling the situation and they're in charge of determining when your student did what they were supposed to do or not. And it's this just complete cluelessness. And so that, again, it's really unfortunate for the families that are kind of caught in the crosshairs of that. And I know a lot of people are canceling their Power Homeschool, never coming back, never looking back. People who are really big advocates of the program. And, they're burnt. I get it. And there are others that say, wow, I'm looking for some other alternative, but, this program was really working for my family and I'm hoping not to have to switch. And others that are like, I love Power Homeschooling and I don't care what's going on. Y'all should have read the fine print and whatever. But the key is, even if you've never heard of Power Homeschooling, never touched the program, this is not affecting you in any way. It has kind of these larger implications, because the truth is we're moving in this homeschooling world, in this post-COVID homeschooling world, that has evolved and changed, and it's going to keep changing. We're seeing a larger population of different kinds of people, much more diverse group, not just ethnically, but just socioeconomic backgrounds, interests, reasons for why they're homeschooling. And so we're getting also with that a lot more options. People are asking for different things. So maybe this family, I remember when I got into it thinking I'm going to be homeschooling by candlelight, a little old house on the prairie style. And then like reality hit, that's not quite how it works for us. But other families that like, okay, we have this choice. I can't homeschool by candlelight and bake bread all day, but I can provide my child with this online curriculum that will meet the needs, the educational needs that I think they do need and aren't getting from whatever their other schooling situation the alternative was. So this was an option. And we're seeing more and more service providers popping up. They're springing up. And that's why I say, you need to protect yourself from some of these businesses that are preying on these new homeschooling families. And I do see them as predatory because some of these companies have been educational companies for a while, or they're just new, like Acellus, who's been doing online digital curriculum for schools long before they got into the homeschool market. And they don't understand the specific needs of the homeschooler and why we've left the traditional educational system, and they're trying to put us back in that same mold and mindset. And so it's really important for our homeschooling families, current or future, or brand newbies, that you be on the lookout. That just because people say this is a great program, it might be great for them, for their kids. It might not necessarily be great for your kids or your situation. And just because a company says we are awesome, and we have been in 6,000 schools across the country, and then you say, well, but what kind of schools are those? Because they're, you left that system because they were failing your kids. So do you really want the exact same program that they're using there? Maybe, maybe not. It really depends on your needs. But my point is that we have to be diligent when we're selecting what kind of resources we're using to educate our kids and promoting amongst us. And I'm speaking to some of us more experienced homeschoolers who have tried different things. And it's easy to say, oh, this is awesome, just use it, without also considering that my needs are different than your needs. So definitely before jumping feet first and putting your trust into any sort of curriculum, software, co-op, online academy, protect yourself first and know that you have to go into a situation in which if it's not working for you, you can get out and get out whole. Now, whole might not mean the money that you spent on the program because, buyer beware. You try something, it doesn't work. It doesn't mean you're going to get your money back for it. But that whatever resource is an investment in time, materials, your child's education, which again, in this case, for some of these families, depending on the state they're in, their education had to also include the paperwork and the evidence. And so now they're out of luck. So this is a really good learning experience for those of us who, were fortunate not to get caught up in the Power Homeschool mess, but to be diligent and aware that something like that could affect us if we choose the wrong program, take the wrong advice, or just put all of our faith in anybody's recommendation or a company. Because, again, the reason we chose the homeschool path is because we know our kids' needs are different. And so you have to be willing to adjust, go with the flow, and switch gears when necessary. And in order to do that smoothly, protect yourself, document what you need to document. Don't invest so heavily in a program that you feel stuck. And, just like you chose to switch away from the traditional safe system, you can always choose to switch gears in whatever part of your homeschooling path you're on. So, speaking of resources, I'm going to include a link to my site below that has some resources that you can go through. I think Power Homeschool was on there, so I'll be going in there and editing if you happen to get this before I get a chance to edit that, because I'm really disappointed in their lack of respect for the homeschooling community, and not a program that I personally want to recommend. If you do and you're happy with it, power to you. But it's not something that I would, because now what's next? So maybe you weren't personally affected by it because you were already in teaching mode. But what's next? The disregard for the authority for the parents has already been demonstrated. The disrespect, the not understand, the parent lack of understanding for homeschooling parents and their needs and the children's needs. It's been demonstrated by this company. And so, once, what do they say? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, the other way. You know what I'm saying? But I would be very hesitant to use the program and trust that they weren't going to just turn around and do the exact same thing. So for those of you who were in there trying to get your stuff and get out, good luck. Tell us what you think. Tell us what your experience has been. And maybe some alternatives that somebody else has come up with. I know there's some companies that are jumping in to say, hey, we have a solution. The Exodus from Power Homeschool discount code, I'm sure, is out there. So if you know anything about some alternative resources, please go ahead and write down in the comment. Either way, write something down in the comment. Again, this is a newer channel, and so I'm hoping to be able to reach more people, because we're out there. I know you're out there thinking about homeschooling, or you just started, and it's really scary sometimes. And for those of us who've been at it for a while, it's easy to sometimes go, oh, that's easy. Oh, don't worry. No big deal. But then I go back in my Wayback Machine in my head, and I remember what it was like starting out, and everything was a big deal. And it doesn't have to be. And we can help you make it not such a big deal by building community and sharing. So go ahead, link to my site down below, and make any comments, give me a like, subscribe, etc. All the YouTube goodness juice that comes back to you in good karma. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you the next time.